So Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. And as crazy as that sounds, Connor, you have a story detailing how this trade finally happened. So take us back to the beginning. How did Aaron Rodgers become a Jet?
Well, the beginning is actually in the middle or towards the end of the season for the New York Jets, the regular season, right? I want to take you back to week 18, that season finale to the Miami Dolphins. Before that game, Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, Woody Johnson, Christopher Johnson, the entire Jets brain trust got together to kind of assess where things went wrong this past season. Because if you remember, the Jets started this year hot. They were red hot at one point. They were one of the teams that people were projecting to make a potential run. They had the championship level defense. They had the playmakers on offense. Where did it all fall apart? Where yet another season ended short of the postseason? And what they realized was while they had that defense, while they had those playmakers, while they had an offensive line that needed to be tweaked some, but probably was still good at least or somewhat good to make a type of a run, they did feel like they still needed the quarterback. This was a team that was held back by their quarterback. And in order for them to take that next step, they needed to go out this offseason and find a veteran quarterback.
Okay, so they wanted a veteran quarterback. Yeah. How did they get to Aaron Rodgers?
Well, that's the thing, right? Because it was an exhaustive search. I mean, there were a number of quarterbacks this offseason that the Jets could have gone out there and targeted. So what they did was that all of their brain trust, all of their decision makers, everyone who really deals with pro personnel, they all got together and what they said was like, okay, who are all of the quarterbacks we could potentially target? And these were free agent options. These were potential draft options. These were trade options. These were players who might get cut that didn't get cut. It was anyone who was anyone. And the Jets found 19 total players that they believed could potentially be acquired this offseason. Among those 19, they then started studying all of these guys, right? And then they broke those 19 players up into three different tiers. Tier 1, these were the players the Jets thought would have made them a Super Bowl contender. Tier 2, these are the playoff guys, basically guys who would get the Jets to the playoffs, but as far as Super Bowl, probably falling short. Then Tier 3, these are the guys that are keeping the Jets right where they are. Maybe they sniff the playoffs, maybe they win a game or two more, but they're not really going to make any big difference. The Tier 1 guys, there were three main names in it: Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Matt Stafford. It was pretty clear early on that Matt Stafford and the Rams were going to rekindle that, and he was going to stay in L.A. The Jets never felt that the Ravens were realistically going to entertain trade offers for Lamar Jackson, so that left Aaron Rodgers as the top target for the Jets and the one player who could potentially be acquired this offseason that would make them a Super Bowl contender.
Okay, so things are quiet for a while. People speculating different scenarios where Rodgers may end up. What was going on at Florham Park? Like, was there ever a point where the Jets thought that they might not get Aaron Rodgers?
Well, it's funny because they had to always have contingency plans in place, right? I mean, I think that's what made this pursuit really interesting because, again, Aaron Rodgers, it looks good on paper, right? Yeah, if you can go out and get Aaron Rodgers, but there's so many things in play with Aaron Rodgers. It takes one, does he still want to continue to play quarterback in the NFL? It takes two, does he want to go back to the Packers? Does it take three, does he want to play elsewhere from the Packers? And then four, does he want to play for the New York Jets? When you're talking about a 39-year-old quarterback, he does have some say with where he goes next. So the initial conversation that Joe Douglas had with the Packers, it was actually right after the season ended, right after the Packers were eliminated from the playoffs when they lost to the Detroit Lions. He called up Green Bay and was like, hey, what's the deal here with Aaron Rodgers? And the Packers were honest with Joe. I mean, it was an exploratory phone call. It wasn't anything that was written in stone or, yeah, we're going to trade him or, hey, he wants to be traded to you. It was, look, we don't totally know what Aaron wants. We don't totally know what we want. But if we do decide to go opposite places, if we want to go left and he wants to go right, we do believe that you, the New York Jets, would be high on Aaron Rodgers' desired wish list. Now, that's right after the season. The Jets then go into all their studying. They find out that, or they believe that Aaron Rodgers is still an elite level quarterback. But the actual pursuit or potential pursuit of Aaron Rodgers, it went from a possibility to a probability right around the NFL Combine. That's when Joe Douglas was able to have extensive conversations with the Green Bay Packers. That's when this was able to go a little bit further. And that's when the Packers let Joe Douglas know that they believed that Aaron Rodgers wanted to play for the Jets. Towards the end of the Combine, the Jets received permission to speak to Dave Dunn, who was Aaron Rodgers' agent. Right after that, they received permission to speak to Aaron Rodgers himself. And shortly after that, Joe Douglas Christopher Johnson, Woody Johnson, Nathaniel Hackett, all of those guys got on a plane, flew out to California, and met in person with Aaron Rodgers, and that's when things really kicked into high gear.
So this is fascinating. After the Pat McAfee show, where Aaron himself declares it is his intention to play for the Jets, things again go quiet between the Jets and the Packers. So was there any contact between the two teams at that point?
Well, there was actually contact before that. I mean, that's kind of what we were all sitting on pins and needles, right? We were all waiting to find out, does Aaron Rodgers want to play for the Jets? The Jets had a little bit of knowledge of that previously. So the way that this sort of worked, right, is like I said, NFL Combine happens, Jets get permission to speak to Aaron Rodgers' agent, then Jets get permission to speak to Aaron Rodgers. Jets fly out to on Wednesday, they flew out to California, meet with Aaron Rodgers in person. Well, the permission for the Jets to speak to Aaron Rodgers, it expired on Saturday. The last actual contact that the Jets had with Aaron Rodgers, though, was right around Friday. When he was going out to that charity football game, he actually spoke to Joe Douglas on his way there. And it wasn't like Aaron Rodgers told the Jets he wanted to play him, but Joe Douglas came away from that conversation thinking to himself, you know what, this doesn't sound like a guy that's ready to hang it up. This sounds like a guy who wants to continue to play football. But again, this all goes back to having some faith, because this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. He could easily be going one way, and then boom, turn the other way. And at this point, there's no Derek Carr to turn to. The Jets are probably going to option C, which would have been a Ryan Tannehill. So there was some faith that they were putting in this getting done. And as a result, there were a lot of sleepless nights between Thursday and Friday and Saturday and all the way into Sunday. And it wasn't until Sunday, this is 3-4 days before Aaron Rodgers' appearance on the Pat McAfee show, that the Jets finally heard what they wanted to hear. And it was Joe Douglas, who had fallen asleep on his couch watching television, sitting there, had his cell phone on his chest, and his cell phone started to ring. Now, this is Sunday, so he can't talk to Aaron Rodgers anymore, but the person he can talk to is Dave Dunn, who is Aaron Rodgers' agent. On the phone, it was Dave Dunn, and what Dave Dunn told Joe Douglas was that Aaron Rodgers' intention was to play for the Jets. Now, again, this isn't public knowledge. Joe Douglas didn't take this and go run to reporters. This was just a conversation between Joe Douglas and Aaron Rodgers' agent. So again, Joe heard it from Rodgers' agent. He didn't hear it from Rodgers yet. So he was still kind of, okay, this sounds good. It's looking good. We're feeling good. It was when, though, a few days later, when Rodgers then went on the Pat McAfee show again, this is after the permission expires, so he can't talk to the Jets, or that's expiring. At that point, when he said it on the McAfee show, that was the first time the Jets heard it from Aaron Rodgers himself, and it was just the confirmation of the confirmation they already know. It's almost like you're told, yeah, you're good, but then when you hear it from the horse himself, when you hear it from the horse's mouth, that's when suddenly it's like, oh, wow, this is real, this is happening. Let's get this across the finish line.
I remember where I was when I heard it. That's how big of a deal it was. But even then, it wasn't guaranteed 1,000% that it was done. So when the news finally broke and trade details were reported, what was the feeling inside the Jets front office?
That it was finally done. I mean, that's really what it was. Like, they had been talking for a while, obviously, because this was something where you needed to agree to the compensation. And I think that the Pat McAfee interview was good in that it came out and it showed the Jets that the interest was for Aaron Rodgers to play for him. That was good to hear. But there was also some underlying aspects of that interview that maybe weren't necessarily great. I mean, you had Aaron Rodgers come out and say he was 90% retired, which I don't think made people in the Jets building hesitate a little bit with some of the compensation they were willing to give up, because they were like, oh, this guy really wants to play. Wait, no, he was 90% retired, so is he really interested in us? Then you also had Aaron Rodgers saying, hey, the Packers haven't told me any of their plans. That ticked me off. I was annoyed at this, when in actuality, the Packers were trying to get in contact with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers just wasn't answering their phone calls. So there was some annoyance from all sides, and I think the Packers were a little annoyed, which made them hesitant to maybe negotiate with the Jets and come down, because originally they were asking for the moon and the stars from the Jets in exchange for Aaron Rodgers, and they had to come down from that. The Jets obviously needed to come up a little bit. They had to find that middle ground, but again, there wasn't really any harsh deadline. So that Pat McAfee interview happens. The opinion is like, oh, this is going to get done. No, because nothing really was forcing this trade to get done. So it wasn't until the NFL owners' meetings a little bit later when, again, the Packers and Jets were able to get together in the same spot where they made legitimate progress. And then obviously before the NFL draft is when things finally went over the finish line. It was actually Joe Douglas is in a meeting with some of the Jets, with the Jets offensive coordinators. So Nathaniel Hackett, Jeff Ulbrich, Brant Boyer, Robert Saleh there as well. When he looked down at his phone, saw it start to ring, looked down, looked at the guys in front of him and said, hold on, I got to take this. It's a call up north. north, stepped aside for 30, 45 minutes came back in, looked at the same coordinators who were in that meeting and said, hey, boys, we got a new quarterback. And that's when obviously it was jubilation all around.
Oh, that is amazing. So April 26th, Aaron Rodgers arrives at the Jets facility for the first time as a member of Gang Green. What was the significance of that moment for the Jets organization?
I think that's the big thing, right? Because for the Jets and their organization, I think this was all almost like the slow play, right? I mean, it was, is Aaron Rodgers possible? And then, okay, it's not just possible, it's probable. Then it became, okay, he wants to play for us. Then, okay, now he wants to play for us, but how do we get the trade done? Then it takes a long time to agree to the compensation. Finally, they agree to the compensation's agreed to. But that moment when he walked into the facility, when he took his physical with the Jets, when he signed the paperwork, when Joe Douglas signed the paperwork making this trade official, that's when everyone realized, when Robert Saleh realized, when Woody Johnson, Christopher Johnson, Joe Douglas, everyone, that's when they all realized, oh my, we got him. Like, this was the conclusion of it all. This was when it went from maybe, and it could happen, and it looks like it's going to happen, and maybe it's going to happen, and it is happening, to no, now it has happened. They saw his name. The paperwork was done. It was right there in front of everyone that they had acquired Aaron Rodgers. And when they acquired Aaron Rodgers, what they did was they took a team that last year, again, when this search all the way began, all the way back when with that game against the Dolphins, when they sat down in Woody Johnson's office and Christopher's there and everyone's there, and they're all talking about how do we make us a Super Bowl contender? We need a veteran quarterback. And then they go and they start figuring out what's the best possible veteran quarterback we can get. And Aaron Rodgers' name is number one. This was the final realization on April 26th that not only did we go out and get a veteran quarterback, but we got the veteran quarterback that we believe is going to make us a Super Bowl contender. And overnight, that's what the Jets became. And since he's been here, they've gotten everything they wanted and more. He's been a part of the offseason program. He's been involved in his teammates. He's completely embraced this Jets culture. And now it's just about the Jets doing it on the field.
And he's gone to every Rangers and Knicks game possible in New York.
Yeah, courtside seats, too.